So welcome back to DecoyNoise, where today we're doing stories from r/today I effed up and taking those cases over to Decoy Court, with today's featured post being, Today I messed up by staring at the sun for over 12 minutes. So OP writes, as usual, this didn't happen today. This happened over 20 years ago, and only recently am I noticing the impact. Don't stare at the sun, kids. When I was around 11, I was fascinated by science. I still am. In particularly, I loved astronomy, and the sun is a pretty cool object. I had heard Galileo had gone blind by looking at the sun through a telescope, so you should never look at the sun. My intellectual curious mind noticed when the sun is high in the sky around noon, it is nearly impossible to look at it without squinting or closing your eyes. It's very bright, and the rays emanating from it prevent you from clearly seeing its edges as a circle. However, in the morning, the sun rises, and soon after, you can clearly see the sun is a circle and it doesn't appear brightly. It seems you could look at it without any issues. As an 11-year-old, I decided I was going to stare at the sun after it rose for as long as I could and see what happens, for science. I did just that. I stared at the sun after sunrise while waiting at the bus stop for school. It didn't seem to be impacting my eyes at all. I tried to avoid blinking as much as possible, but of course, I blinked a bit. I wound up looking at the sun for approximately 12 minutes. When I looked away, there was a clear gray/black circle in the middle of my vision where the sun had once been. What's more, the colors of things seemed to move around in my eyes as I looked around. The sky had a reddish color and the concrete around me went from green to blue. It's almost like there was a filter differentiating where the sky had been and a different filter where the ground had been, superimposed on my vision. Those two filters and the black circle where the sun had been were fixed into my field of vision, and the color of everything I looked at was distorted by those filters. I can only describe as what I imagine a drug trip to be like. Everything was funky colors because of the way their original colors were impacted by the filters in my vision. It's similar to the negative photo optical illusion and had a link to it. As an adult, I have come to the conclusion that what I was seeing was a negative afterimage of the colors of the sky and the ground that I looked at when I was looking at the sun. This afterimage followed me around all day. What scared me is these filters, the afterimage, and this black circle remained strongly in my vision past lunch. Then over the course of the afternoon, the filters and black circle gradually began to fade, and the world returned to its normal colors by the time I got home. If I looked at something fast enough or darted my eyes, I could still see the black circle. Over the years, I forgot about this experiment and recently went to an eye doctor a couple of years ago because my vision had gotten blurry over the years. They took a picture of my retina and pointed out that my macula, I believe that's the word, the point where the light focuses on the retina appears to have low amounts of light exposure for someone of my age. They noted it down and said if it gets worse, there could be problems. I thought immediately to that long-forgotten experiment where I stared down the sun, and it won. In the last year or so, I've noticed more and more the black spot where the sun once was. I will quickly dart my eyes and see it for a second. The brain and the eye are amazing, and the brain will hide it or fill any gaps in vision with information around the gap, similar to your blind spot. Try this out to see what I mean. Okay, they have a link to it. I've also noticed that in editing sentences, I will miss a mistake. I assume because it's filled in by my brain, making the sentence look correct. If I look at what I have written sideways out the corner of my eye, I can catch mistakes easier. My personal belief is that my brain is filling in these missing details where the gap in my vision is, where the black circle where the sun would be if my brain wasn't filling it in. It's interesting how one stupid experiment as a kid can come back and reveal the stupidity of it years later. Always wear sunglasses. Never look directly at the sun, even if it seems like you can. You are doing damage to your eyes. Edit, yes, I blame the spelling errors on the blind spot. I've read through the post 3 times before I posted it, even the title, and there were many more issues before I posted it. None of them were intentional as some may believe. I will leave the spelling issues as an example of how the blind spot affects me, because seeing the black spot every once in a while, my atrociously written emails at work, are the main day-to-day issues from my experiment. Don't blame the parents, they told me not to look at the sun, or blame them because they encouraged my scientific curiosity. Edit, many of you asked for my astigmatism, so there's the prescription. I don't have floaters or visual snow. I may have a mild form of night blindness, as the post implies. I have small sun-sized blind spot in the middle of my vision. And I intended this to be a throwaway because people that know me didn't know my stupidity, but the karma has far exceeded my normal account. So he works in a science and STEM field, and then he has a too long and didn't read. So taking this case and moving it over to Decoy Court, because with an OP like this, we have to judge him, even though he did it when he was a kid. The idea is, he thought that he can mad dog the sun, like stare down and like, yo, what's up, homie? What you gonna do, son? And then he thought because he was scientifically inclined, he was going to beat the sun in a staring match. How dare you? There was nothing you can do about. Now I wish I remember what the name of the sun god was, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're not gonna do it. So who would you blame this situation? With Decoy Court, who would be the person? Like, would it be the pseudoscientist Bill Nye telling him all sorts of weird things and, like, you know, do it at home, science experiments, and making him, like, you know, question how he could be the you know, the gritty street scientist that's going to try to figure out how to mad dog the sun. Or is it because, you know, the parents really encourage him to learn about science? Or is it just because he's a dumb kid and doing dumb things and he shouldn't be staring at the sun? I mean, I guess he had some pretty good logic in the idea that he could probably just wait until the sun wasn't looking early in the morning. He was just waking up and he was least powerful. I mean, I kind of get that right there, but I guess we really can't give a not the antagonist judgment towards a story like this. But I'm going to go ahead and say, for the sun, you are the antagonist, even though you are the single reason why everybody here is on this earth and life itself exists. I'm still saying you're kind of the antagonist for blinding this poor kid just because he likes science. So Decoy Court is going to take a brief recess right now, and I want you to give me your thoughts on the story 1. Should the kid have stared at the sun? And if you at any point in time like what I'm doing, like my Decoy Court, like the reads, please make sure you subscribe down below by joining that Decoy Koi pond, by turning on the notifications, because as you know, the channel is having a hard time growing and you oftentimes won't see my videos unless you're having the notifications on. So after that brief recess, let's go ahead and look at that top comment, which is someone saying, when I was a kid, I thought it would be a great idea to keep my eyes open while flashing one of those removable camera lenses. All I could see was purple. No shapes, nothing but purple. As if with a dog in the everything is fine meme, I then decided just to take a nap. I woke up sometime later and everything was back to normal. Aside from my wife, this is the only other time I have ever spoken of this idiocy. Take care of your eyes, people. And it kind of reminds me of a time, not necessarily a take care of your eyes situation, but when those disposable cameras, me and my friends realized that if you tear off all like the other parts of it, like there's parts that can actually shock you, and you need to make sure you keep the camera intact, because there's electrical components to the flash on it, and it's like we were shocking ourselves and not really knowing why, and it's like, oh yeah, maybe because we're being dumb and disassembling a camera that doesn't need to be disassembled. So the next top comment is, I'm suddenly afraid of all the times I glance at the sun growing up. And the next reply was, don't be. A quick glance won't do much. Think of it as old photos that need a dark/red room. Brief exposure to natural light won't actually do any harm to them, but leaving the light on for a while will ruin them. Obviously, never glancing up at the sun is the best, but minimal exposure several times shouldn't cause any real issues. Staring for 12 minutes at the brightest light source for the Earth is asking to go blind, which is what OP kind of found out right there. So, I mean, looking through this, it just seems that there's just going to be kind of stories back and forth, so we got to do more things that are like Decoy Court. So the next top post, which is something that's heavily rewarded, but it says, today I messed up by tipping it 140% to a pizza delivery driver. So OP writes, my buddy and I ordered a pizza while half drunk. Unaware that I already paid with my credit card, I walked to the door with $30 and gave him a 20% tip on top of that, which had already been paid online. The driver was about in his mid-30s, barely spoke English, and he was driving a beat-up car. He said, thank you, very enthusiastically, which made me realize about 2 seconds in that I just gave him double the money for the order, which he obviously would receive as a tip. I was about to admit my mistake and ask for the money back before I saw his reaction while he was walking to his car. He had a smile from ear to ear like he found the cure for the lockdown or struck gold or something. He even did this little mini jump before he hopped into his car. I'm not exactly Bill Gates, I still have debts to pay, but I'm glad I messed up to help someone who needed the money more than I did. Anyways, I feel pretty dumb after, but the joy I saw in that made my week. Not a very interesting story, but it was pretty cool for me, as my dad moved to Canada from across the world with only a bike and a few $100. Too long didn't read, paid double for a pizza while being drunk, no regrets, okay, little to no regrets. So taking this case over to Decoy Court, where this person is saying like, hey look, I gave a guy $30 and then I was somehow able to transmute $30 to a pizza guy to being an amount of, what is this guy got, 2.5K of votes and karma, all this diamond awards, gold awards, and to my knowledge, diamond is like $5 for one and gold is like maybe $5 for 3. So doing the math, he probably got most of his money back in karma and awards in itself. So I mean, he probably kind of came out ahead of things, and now that he has Reddit fame, that this is probably just going to cancel it out. So at the end of the day, he's kind of ahead in the world. But I mean, I guess with story number 2, what are your thoughts to the idea of giving extra money? Would you take the money back if you saw that they were like really enjoying themselves, or would you just be like, you know what, they're more excited about it? Because we're not going to jump to the top comments. We're just going to jump into this next story real quick because it has to do with the other one saying, today I messed up by giving a less than 1% tip to my pizza driver. So the inverse of that. So, this guy was inspired by the guy that accidentally tipped 140%. It brought back memories of the time I completely miscalculated and left a horrible tip. This was years ago when I was 13 or 14. I was home alone and my parents left me pizza money, so I ordered Pizza Hut. I did the math prior to ordering and it did not factor in the delivery charges or taxes. When the guy came to my door, I gave him the money and asked him if that was good. He sarcastically replied, well, that leaves me with 11 cents, but it's good. Going based on my prior calculation, I thought he was joking, and in my head I thought it was at least $3 to $4 tip, and I didn't give him any more. After looking at the receipt, I realized I didn't factor in the tax and delivery charges, and I actually did tip him 11 cents on a $24.89 order. I felt like a horrible person and wanted to give him more, but I obviously didn't drive, and the pizza place was about 2.5 to 3 miles away, so I couldn't walk there. Too long didn't read. I miscalculated the total for pizza I ordered and tipped my driver 11 cents on a $24.89 order when I was a teenager and felt awful for doing it. Edit, he was in his 50s, which is probably why I felt more guilty about it. And he wasn't rudely sarcastic, but more so unconvincing when he told me the tip was good. So, taking this case over to Decoy Court and the idea that, yes, he's a kid, he's going to miscalculate things, and oftentimes when you're a kid, you don't realize that the delivery fee or the tax doesn't go to the driver. You're just like, what is this extra stuff? I don't understand taxing. This is theft. I don't understand that. So, I mean, I could see why they did it, but here's the sad part, though. They were able to transmute 11 cents into like 1.1k comments, and the other guy was able to had to do the conversion of $40 to 2.5k comments. I mean, by the law of multiplication and math, it seems that he was able to get more money, more karma on based on his money, which is kind of showing us the wrong lesson here, because if you give a 1% tip, your 11 cents gets extrapolated by like times 500. If you give a $30 tip, or no, with 20% on top, so that's $36. Did the math in my head. That's why you subscribe to DecoyNoise. So he gave him a $36 tip, and he only got himself, 2.5k. So it's like maybe the math is wrong. And even though this guy got more fame, just simple dollars and cents, karma capitalism, you want to give the short tip, post that story on it, because you're gonna get a lot more of a appreciation on your investment. I don't know what that is. So we'll take a brief recess on these two stories. So on story number 2/2.5, let me know your thoughts on tipping a pizza driver, and what would be the reason that you're going to give somebody more karma for a crappy tip as opposed to a good tip. But let's go ahead and read that top comment over here saying, in my experience, we didn't really mind if it was a little kid who didn't tip. And then OP says, really? I always thought adult wait staff and delivery drivers despise little kids because they're known for being obnoxious and not tipping well. And that's the thing is, if you're going to be tipping people in a place where tipping isn't, a gratuity isn't involved in the check, you're going to know. Like, I was a server a long time, that some people are going to be jerks and not tip you, and some people are going to be great and they're going to tip you well. And there's really nothing you can do about your service half the time and how much they tip you. It's just more based on their outlook on tipping as opposed to your service in many instances. The next top comment is strange country, and the next reply was, I honestly don't get it. People get so malicious over their tips, it just feels greedy and entitled. I'm from the UK. While working in bars and restaurants, we occasionally get tipped. More in food industry, in some places we share tips. If I don't get any, I'm not going to be upset or angry at the customer. It's their money which they work for, and it's theirs to do with. If I get a tip, I'm extremely happy and thankful to that customer/table, but I do not expect to be handed 15 to 20% per table. If that's how you get paid in America, plus your hourly wage or whatever it is, you're going to be rolling in cash. Say you serve 25 tables on an average $30 bill, you get 20% for every bill, $150 in a night, not factoring in your hourly wage, more than you'd make the minimum wage in UK of working an average shift of 6 to 8 hours. Apologies if I'm incorrect with information or opinion. I'm not American. I just find it odd, which is true. It's this thing where it's like, the capitalism of American restaurants and bars. If you're good at your job and you know how to handle customers and you give good customer service, or maybe you're just a pretty face, oftentimes you're going to get tipped really, really well by people that just want to see you more. And it's like, yes, the rich get richer and the poor, they get, it's not the poor, I would say the rich get richer and the uncustomer service oriented don't make much money. So I mean, it's a messed up system, but you see it's a messed up system unless you're like the best server, and then all of a sudden they're pulling in like the best bartender at any of the bars I worked at, we're pulling in like $200 a night. So it's like it sucks in some instances and it's great in other instances. So I guess it's just all a matter of your perspective. But let's go ahead and go to the third story, which is, today I messed up by telling my son meat is made from animals. So OP writes, a while ago we had a friend over for dinner who's a vegetarian. My 5-year-old son asked her why she didn't want a steak, to which she replied, I'm a vegetarian. I don't like the idea of animals being killed so I can eat them. My son was quiet and thinking about it for a few seconds till he said, I don't like that either. I might become a vegetarian as well. So a few days go by, till today I get a call from his teacher. She was quite concerned. Apparently never since we told him where meat comes from, he had been yelling, animal serial killer, to all his classmates who eat meat. And on top of that, when they went to a farm with his class, he called all the animals different types of meat instead of cow/sheep/chicken. He would say, look, there's some meatballs over there while pointing towards a group of cows. Guess it's time for some further explaining. Too long didn't read. Told my son meat is made from animals, now he thinks all his classmates are serial killers. So taking the case and rushing it over to Decoy Court is a sad situation, a reality of, it's such an arbitrary thing we do as just, this generation of humans where we're like, you know what, dog, good, friend, keep him indoors, bathe him, pet him, pamper him, but then feed him other animals, or we just haven't designated pets like cow, pig, chicken. Chickens, I've been around farms and chickens are just very aggressive and mean, and I'm not saying they had it coming, but it's just like, yeah, it'd be hard to keep a chicken as a pet because they're so mean. But have you ever been around a pig? Most pigs, if you have them domesticated indoors, they'll be your good friend. And cows, have you seen a cow where they first find the grass and they're prancing around and they have very human-like eyes? I'm not trying to get it too far into the the veganism, but it's a situation where if whenever we stop to think about not at a cheeseburger, not watching like a Carl's Jr. commercial, and you're seeing this bacon wrapped onion ring, barbecue bacon stacked sesame seed bun, double western bacon cheeseburger, and it's like when you see that you're like, wow, delicious. But if then the next commercial was just like cows grazing in a farm, and it's like a Honda commercial where they're talking about like the car driving by, you're like, oh yeah, they're so cute and cuddly. Pointing this out to the kid is just going to make him have this panic attack where he's like, oh my god, I can't believe this thing's happening. But it's also kind of a good thing for them to realize that this is there. Maybe they should tell him boundaries as to you can't really judge people for their life choices, but it is a thing where it's like, maybe they should have just made up a fib, like a birds and bees analogy for the not the horses, for the cows, as to not expose them to this idea that we do this horrendous thing. And I hopefully, that more than meat or beyond meat, all that stuff, they start to perfect what they're doing so we don't have to treat animals badly just so we can enjoy tasty bacon. I feel like it's on the horizon, but now we're getting in a very weird thing, and Decoy Court has become something entirely different. So we'll take a brief recess on story number 3, and I want to know your comments and thoughts as to, should they have told the kid that the bacon is genuinely what it is, or when they're young like that, you just tell them a lie, be like, oh no, it's different. Those are different horses. That's for a different thing. Like that's in like a BoJack Horseman where they're eating like burgers and stuff, but they're all animals. A very bizarre thing. But now I'm getting distracted again, so let's go ahead and get to the top comment right now, which is my son asked me what humans were made of, and I said meat. He had a hard time getting him to eat meat, and for a while after that. The next top comment to that was they're made of meat. Meat? Meat? They're made out of meat. Meat? There's no doubt about it. We picked several different parts of the planet, took them abroad in our recon vessels, probed them all the way through. They're completely meat. That's impossible. What about the radio signals? The message is to the stars. They use radio waves to talk, but the signals don't come from them. The signals come from machines. Who made the machines? That's who they want to contact. They're made of machines. I'm not trying to tell you what. I'm getting confused. This is going to be so long. I'm glad I stopped reading that because I have no idea what that is. So the next top comment is, your son's learning to be human. Learning to coexist with others is just a little nuanced than learning that animals are made of meat. And it is true, this is just an overall thing where they need to realize that people are going to make other choices. You're going to hate what those choices are. You're going to feel offended that they make other choices than you, but that's just part of being a part of a society. You're not going to agree with everybody. It's just going to be a thing. So now we're getting way too philosophical. So let's go ahead and get to that fourth and final story, which is, today I messed up by using the nuclear option in a game of Monopoly. So OP writes, it was a 4-player family game of Monopoly. My brother, our parents, and I were playing. And I wasn't doing well. I wasn't bankrupt or heavily mortgaged yet, but I could tell that something drastic didn't need to change in the next 3 turns or so. I was toast. I didn't have any monopolies, but I did have a couple 2 out of 3 properties, New York and St. James being the standouts, and a couple scattered here or there. My brother was the clear favorite at this point, with my dad in clear second. My mom was losing right along with me. It was my turn, and I was trying to arrange a favorable trade. I'm negotiating with my dad. I have a property that'll have him have another monopoly. He has a card that'll give me a monopoly. We both have enough money and side properties to even things up afterwards. With a good trade here, we both have a higher chance of winning, significantly cutting into my brother's lead. Seems like it should be a slam dunk, right? But no, my dad is pushing for the most ridiculous trades possible, and outright refusing to trade away those properties that are most valuable to me. If I don't get a monopoly out of this, I might as well not even bother a trade. I'm getting frustrating as the negotiation stalls, but I get an idea. A terrible, terrible idea. I say to my dad, Dad, I'm clearly in the weaker position here, but right now, that means I have less to lose. So here's the deal. If I don't get a trade from you that gives me a monopoly, I'm going to sell all my properties to brother's name for $1. Dad didn't like that at all, and there was no trade. He also probably didn't expect me to carry through, but immediately after, I sold all my deeds to my brother for $1, and my dad lost any chance whatsoever of winning the game. Dad isn't speaking to me right now. Was that extremely jerkish move for me to play? Yeah, I'm feeling a little vindicated though, but not letting myself being pushed around when I was a little guy. But will ever anyone want to play Monopoly with me again? I kinda doubt it. Too long didn't read. I was losing at my family Monopoly, went mad and made my dad mad. Family board games won't ever be the same. And they also talked about messages being deleted and auto mod. Okay, so I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in Decoy Court. And this is actually something that should be in Decoy Court, where it is a situation that has OP not wanting to be, bullied by their father in a game Monopoly, saying, okay, look, you can give me a fair deal right now, or we're both gonna lose, so what's it gonna be? The dad kind of sealed their own fate, but the idea is, like, this is like you being, backed in the corner by a tiger and be like, you know what? I can just jump off this cliff and get eaten by that hippo. So what's the choice going to be? It's not like you feel vindicated or you won or anything. It's like you still lost no matter what. There's no second place Monopoly. There's no second place in life. And the thing is, though, is he probably should have started using a more creative angle to this situation where it's like, no, you don't play the cards. You play the game. Play the game. Like, you know what, Dad? How about we just start talking about those text messages I saw you got on your phone the other day? And like, okay, you take it, buy it all, just shut your mouth or whatever. I'm like, oh, I was just making it up or something. But just the idea that there were other ways around this. So the Decoy Court is saying that, yes, I think everybody sucks here because nobody's winning. But then maybe OP could have done a different thing in the Decoy defense where he could have played other cards that aren't in there. You don't become a multi-billionaire Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Bill Gates, Elon Musk billionaire by playing the game the way it is. You got to think out of the box. You got to start using pieces from other games and really trying to assert your dominance in this thing. This isn't the Monopoly. This is the game of life. Now, I'm not really going anywhere with this. I'm talking myself into board game analogies, but I mean, as you kind of see my channel being introduced, because I'm using ads right now. So if you're new to the channel, I please ask that you possibly subscribe to the channel, possibly turn on the notifications, because the channel is just having a hard time gaining steam. So if you want to join that Decoy Koi Pond, you want to be joining this conversation we're doing on this podcast live commentary thing, please subscribe, please turn the notifications on, and please share the video or the channel overall with somebody you think might like it. But if nothing else, just go ahead and put this on autoplay and check out one of those new episodes of DecoyNoise coming up next.